All right, well, good morning, everyone. Right, there we go. We're gonna, do we need to approve the agenda first before calling the
I'll do
roll?
the roll call first. yeah.
Okay. Do I have to call the meeting to order and then you do roll call? Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and call the meeting to order and Elaine's gonna do roll call.
All right, thank you. Welcome, everyone. Mayor McLean. Alexis Pickering.
Here.
Dale Reynolds.
Here.
Jordan Morales. Jerem Wagner.
Here.
Debbie Kling.
Here.
Greg Rast. Joe Steer.
Here.
Todd Lavoy.
Dave Teedy in place of Todd Lavoy.
I was going to say. Dave. Tom Daly.
Here.
Lance McGinnis Brown.
Here.
All right, we have a quorum.
Great. All right. Do we have any questions or changes to the agenda?
Madam Chair, just note that today we have a relatively short agenda, but we have a lot of time to dig into the two planning efforts that we're working on, the Nampa Caldwell Boulevard TOD study and Valley Connect 3.0. So the one item on the consent agenda, if anyone has questions about the TIP, the Transportation Improvement Plan, I'm prepared to answer those.
Great. With that, is there a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved. Second.
Seconded, any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Motion carries. Or anyone that says no? Okay, motion carries. Sorry about that. All right, then moving on to the consent agenda. Items on the consent agenda are considered action items and will be enacted by one motion. There will be no separate discussion on these items unless an executive board member requests the item be removed from the consent agenda and placed under action items. Is there any request? Seeing none, is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Second. Moved and seconded. Thanks, Councilmember Reynolds. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. All right, we're going to move over to executive board action items. I don't think we have anything, so we're going to move over to item number 5, the executive board information items. The Nampa Caldwell Transit Oriented Development TOD study update. Ms. Kate.
Okay, it's getting set up. As you may remember, we've been working for some time to figure out what we could do to have better planning on Nampa Caldwell Boulevard. It's a service area that we see as a big growth area. That's been proven recently by our changes in the Route 42 to an hourly route all day long and the doubling of ridership as a result. And so the next step in that is how can we work with the adjacent land use agencies to figure out, is there a way to better coordinate, better integrate the land use with it? So that's what this study has been looking at.
Warning, my computer's running slow.
And by the way, one item, Madam Chair, that I forgot to note, we have a kind of a empty room today in terms of staff. I allowed 3 of my chiefs to go on vacation, 2 of my chiefs to go on vacation, and 1 is in a training. So the remaining staff is ready and willing to step up and do the work. But Stephen, for instance, is not here. So there might be a question that he would be able to answer that neither Kate nor I can. And if so, we'll bring it back to you.
Thanks, Elaine. Well, good morning, board. Kate Dahl, principal planner. Like Elaine said, this is an information item. I've given you, I believe, one other update on this study. So this is the new information we've developed since that last time. We're going to go over 4 topics: the study area that we've selected, the population and jobs data, the transit-oriented development nodes that we've identified, and the multifamily analysis. So first off, the study area. Of course, we took a look at the Nampa-Caldwell Boulevard from Caldwell to Nampa. We looked at the half-mile radius around either side of the buffer, with I-84 being the northern boundary. And then on the southern boundary, basically, we looked at it on an individual parcel basis. We eliminated any of the parcels that were still in ag land and tried to include those that had some development.
So generally, the black line indicates where we decided the boundary, how far the boundary should go out.
Correct.
And if I'm not mistaken, the one on the north that does extend past the freeway catches some of the industrial development around the airport. Is that
Correct. Yes. The stakeholders felt that the Caldwell Airport is close enough to it should be included within the study.
Thank you.
So what is transit-oriented development? Transit-oriented development is mixed use, dense development that's walkable. It has frequent transit access, pedestrian amenities, and essentially condenses that development in a way that drives ridership for transit and makes it more convenient and improves people's quality of life. One of the things that we've looked at, as we know, as Elaine said, we currently run transit service down the Nampa-Caldwell Boulevard, but we want to look at ways to improve that ridership along the boulevard. And the boulevard is one of those areas that it has a ton of businesses, it has some residential, but there's a way that we could redevelopment in some locations that could really improve the ridership along the corridor. And doing transit-oriented development at some locations along the boulevard would really help improve, not only be able to get people around quicker, but would drive ridership on our routes, as well as also solve some of the affordable housing issues that are both Nampa and Caldwell are dealing with.
And additionally, as we've talked to the 2 agencies, specifically Nampa and Caldwell, I think they're looking forward to some guidance on where it would be best for them to lean into more dense development, recognizing that not everyone wants to live in dense development, but that those who do want to live in a place that also has access to all of these services, and transit being chief among them. So we're really looking at this as a way to help guide not just our own decision-making, but the decision-making of our partners.
So as we took a look at the population and job density along the corridor, here in orange, you can see the tall columns have the highest job density. So as you look at these tall columns in orange, you can see, Canyon County, in Caldwell, West Valley Medical, College of Idaho. As you're moving down the boulevard, you can see the College of Western Idaho, City of Nampa facilities, and then as you move out, some of the other locations. So you can see there's a lot of employment destinations along the boulevard here. As we look at the population density, which is shown in blue, it's a lot less dense. But as you drive the boulevard, you see there's a lot of redevelopment that's happening. There's a lot of multifamily that's being added along the boulevard. And overall, as you look at the density along the boulevard, this area within the study area has 27% of the population density of the county and 43% of the job density within the county. So there's a lot there to work with. So as we took a look at it, besides discussing where we could see the nodes emerging with the population and job density, we also took a look at what the land uses were in different locations along the boulevard. And we identified 3 different TOD nodes that made sense. One is the Caldwell Event Center, one's the Happy Day Transit Center, and then one's the Middleton Karcher Road node. Yes.
Is there a reason why Fort Idaho Center isn't on there? Because I think about if you're putting the Caldwell, and this isn't a Caldwell Nampa question, I made comparison, but I'm thinking, my goodness, you've got the College of Western Idaho and the Fort Idaho Center right there from an
Mhm.
event center perspective, hosting a lot of events. How did that not end up as a node?
Well, because it's a little too far from the boulevard. We tried to stay on this side of I-84. So yeah, if we had gone on the other side of I-84, that would have absolutely made sense.
But we do provide services there to CWI.
Yes, yes, we do.
Okay, so I guess it totally makes sense what you're saying because it's off of Nampa Caldwell and this is a Nampa Caldwell Boulevard. So thank you. I should have known that. I mean, thought about it, but anyway, just food for thought.
I think that's a great future node though, that we could absolutely, and it's already developing as such. I mean, there's multifamily, there's college, there's businesses.
I think the other point is, if you'll notice, downtown Caldwell and downtown Nampa are also not identified as nodes. And so what we tried to do were identify the places that currently don't have any detailed
have
planning
potential.
around them. And so College of Western Idaho, downtown Nampa, downtown Caldwell all have various plans that are helping drive that kind of development, but these places in between don't. So we certainly would be happy to add at least an analysis into this that says why we didn't do that and the densities that are already planned for those other nodes that we didn't include, if that made some sense.
I appreciate that. I think it's important that having that note in there is good.
Yeah.
As to the why, so it isn't perceived as an oversight. And then you get like a stupid question like I just asked, but yeah,
Yeah.
thank you.
So as the stakeholder committee looked at the land around each of these nodes, one of the things we looked at is that what we're calling areas of continuity and areas of change. And so the areas of continuity are the parcels or lots that have already been divided up into smaller lots. They may have been more recently developed. There's a lot of locally owned businesses. The building value is higher than the land value, and there's public facilities and utilities. So those areas we're not expecting to change. And then we have the areas of change, and those are the areas that are really the large lots. They may have been developed a long time ago. They're underperforming, and the land has higher value than the building. These particular lots are the ones that we see as having the most potential for TOD redevelopment. So with that, as we take a look at the Caldwell Event Center node, you can see the areas of continuity. So the areas we expect to essentially stay the same are shown in orange. Those that we expect to change are shown in the near term. So 5 to 10 years are shown in green, and those longer term shown in blue. So over 10 years. Part of the reason we selected this node, of course, is one, there has been a lot of, there's a lot of activity at the Caldwell Event Center. There's a lot of events going on there. There's the fairgrounds are there. A lot of events happen there. We have the Caldwell Night Rodeo as well. It's also next to the College of Idaho. So there's a lot of college students. And also the city of Caldwell is looking at redeveloping the Caldwell Event Center and the fairgrounds to add auditorium, potentially a hotel. There's been a lot of public discussions going on about a new concept for this area, including there's been discussion of adding hotels, and of course parking is always a concern, and that's one of those things that makes great demand for transit. This would be a great area that VRT could better serve if we were able to plan better for it.
And there's actually a hotel under construction right now in that area.
Thank you. So of course, if we have more people in an area, we also need to take a look at what the pedestrian improvements, how are our riders going to get to our transit services within this area? And that's one of the things that is certainly in need of improvements along the Caldwell-Nampa Boulevard. Although there's sidewalks and bike lanes, it's not that pedestrian friendly. I mean, you do see people walking and riding along the boulevard, but it could be a lot more pleasant experience and more people would consider doing it if it was safer. So as a result for this particular intersection, we've recommended the high vis crosswalks, ADA ramps, moving the stop bar setback back a little bit so that pedestrian and bikers have more room to get across the road and be able to see, as well as protected bike lanes.
And one of the things I would love to hear some comment from all of you on, you know, in the last 10 years in Ada County, the typical cross-section for arterial roads that have multimodal services on them has changed. It used to be this cross-section where you had a bike lane on the edge of the road, protected or not, and then a sidewalk beyond that. It now in Ada County includes a buffer area and a multi-use path instead of a sidewalk on the edge. And so, you know, obviously our consultants are constrained to giving us plans that respond to the current adopted standards in the agencies that we're working with. But if there's a desire to consider this cross-section, I think we could be a partner in helping that happen and helping understand, is it still in 2025 the right decision to put a bike lane on an arterial, even if it's protected, or is it a better decision to use a multi-use path that's separated from the arterial? So I just wanted, if anyone's wondering why this is the way it is, that's why, because that's what we have on the books right now, but we'd be more than happy to work with you on changing that standard if you're interested.
Thanks for flagging that, Elaine. Wagner.
So this is in design right now. Did you get this from our public works?
This is not a design. This is just a suggestion from our consultants about what you could do to the boulevard at these various places to introduce multimodal travel.
Okay. Yeah, this is in design, expect construction hopefully next.
Oh, okay. This particular one is
This exact
okay.
intersection.
And it still has the bike lanes on street.
I have not seen it. I know there's not bike lanes now.
Okay.
On the boulevard, yes. I was thinking Linden. So I haven't seen the design yet, but I can check on that with Rob.
Thank you.
So one of the ideas that the consultants brought to us, so Fort Worth at the stockyards, they do a lot of rodeos, a lot of livestock events, and so they've branded their buses in rodeo wraps. They've also improved the insides with leather seats, and similar to our bands on the bus, they play local country music on the bus. And we just thought this was a really fun idea that would work really well for this particular node. The second node is Midland and Karcher. As we all know, Karcher is the largest intersection in Canyon County, moving a lot of traffic. There's a lot of uses, a lot of destinations, particularly shopping destinations that people reach within this node. But there is a lot of, it's very suburban development with a lot of parcels that could be redeveloped. There is the Karcher Mall is currently being redeveloped. There's multifamily that's been added to the rear of it. There's also some other multifamily developments within the vicinity. But the biggest opportunity is really at the northwest corner where the Staples building is at. Currently, there's a large parking lot there that, you know, has Christmas tree sales, has vehicle sales. But there could be denser mixed use development in there that would really drive ridership. The other difficult thing, of course, within this intersection and within this node is the walkability. And that was something that was talked a lot about within the stakeholder group, even trying for pedestrians to try to reach the other side of the interstate where the marketplace is not super walkable. And there's you know, they often see pedestrians trying to walk across the interstate, not even on the sidewalk on the one side. And so improving this area to be more pedestrian friendly and adding more residential development to mix in with the destinations could really improve the ridership along the route. Of course, some of the same improvements that we looked at the previous intersection with crosswalks, the stop bar setback, and improved pedestrian crossings and protected bike lanes. And the third node is Happy Day Transit Center. You're all familiar with this node and know we're trying to work on reconstructing the actual Happy Day Transit Center for many years. We have a lot of opportunity there to potentially add some housing, do some joint development. And this particular node, VRT would have more control of, since we actually have a facility here that we could set that tone. There is residential development that's gone in close to here. You can see it's close to the Walmart Supercenter, which is one of the major destinations along the boulevard. The Jackson apartments have been put in close to here, which has, I think, 300 plus units. And so there's some opportunity here to redevelop.
And this is the node where we are using some of the proceeds from the Regional Accelerator grant that we were able to get from the Pacific Northwest Economic Region. And so right now we're in the process of first looking at the transit center as it sits today and rethinking how to provide access for the buses at very least. And then once that's complete, we'll engage another consultant and look at what the opportunities would be to put housing on that parking that's in front of the transit center today, and even potentially completely rebuilding the entire site with both housing and transit. We thought it would be worth at least finding out what the difference is between putting up with the old building that sort of isn't very efficient, isn't placed in the right place, and completely rebuilt, and just adding housing on the front, which is certainly possible, and then completely rebuilding and seeing if there's a more efficient way to use the site overall if we were able to do that. So, just know that we're moving forward with that, and we'll be bringing some stuff to you soon.
I have a quick question for Kate. You had mentioned how, Expo, Idaho was too far out from the boulevard to be considered as part of the nodes, right? Generally speaking, what was the distance? Because I noticed there's some variation, right, with how it's moving around. How did you generally define these nodes?
So, yeah.
But besides like the land use patterns that you described.
Right. Part of it was the population and jobs density as well. And then also just looking at, I guess, kind of connecting it. I guess we didn't necessarily look at the spacing between each of them, but we did look at both downtown Nampa and downtown Caldwell already have great examples of TOD development, and sort of just trying to fill in between those so that it was, I guess, islands of nodes as you go along the boulevard. Yeah, I mean, it really had to do with those items. I guess we didn't necessarily look at this, whether there was even spacing or not.
Well, I think that so far this has been really great. This is a great presentation, but I think maybe for next steps too would be fascinating to see, because we notice folks are able to walk 2 bus stops, right, if it's less than half of a mile. So I'm wondering if there is an opportunity to evaluate that half mile, cross section along the boulevard as well as a future step. But Mayor Wagner?
Yeah, so just also on this, just so you are aware, so Laster Lane actually does now connect all the way to Lake. So there was a double canal there that separated it. That's been constructed. So now you have connection to the boulevard on Laster Lane direct, and that orange area there to the west, that is now the northern half is fully developed with PEG companies that's come in, and so it's a single level multifamily development, I guess you could say. So it's individual units, but not like apartments stacked on top of each other. They're right next, but there's just did the ribbon cutting less than a month ago, and then they'll be starting on the north half here soon for another several hundred units. So you're aware of what's happening on those.
Thank you.
And that's great news. I would guess another follow-up to this will be, once we have this base information, figuring out those micro connections from spots like you just mentioned to the bus stop, and making sure that there is good connectivity and a way for people to get there.
I do. I'm just sitting here thinking about the continuity of it all. Because this is a section, right? A space and time kind of thing. But there is a whole lot more continuity here that interacts. And I think one of the big questions from the city of Nampa that we're asking is the connectivity of it all. Because you're saying Nampa Caldwell Boulevard, but Garrity, I mean, it goes on in. So that stops at what? Right, where did you stop this? Did you stop it at 2nd Street? Did you stop it at North Side? Where?
It stops at 16th, roughly.
At 16th, okay. But from a transit standpoint, that transit then goes out Garrity. And then it goes, and you've got a lot of density. And then you've got, when you talk about the population of jobs and stuff, the density on, just on the other side, which is just on the other side of the freeway, is a massive area with, you know, you've got Amazon with 3,000 workers and you've got a lot there. So how does this all tie together is the question that I'm wondering. How does it tie together with a lot that's happening? Does it tie together? Or is this a separate, like you explain it to me?
Yeah, I mean, it all ties together. I guess I would look at this as a starting piece. You know, we see absolutely CWI is one of our largest ridership stops in Canyon County. And so that's undeniable, but there is a piece of it where we have to start somewhere and start planning. And this is really our first planning project that we've done in Canyon County. So I think having a starting place, we can just continue to add as we go along the different add along the corridor. I mean, probably the area that you're talking about could use its own plan just for that specific area because it is so important and has so much going on over there. Yeah.
Well, because it all ties together. So how far off would we be to take a look at that?
Well, it'd be outside the scope of this project, but yeah, I think we could put together another planning study and get it in the pipeline to take a look at that area.
I would say if we're going to continue to get funding, it's going to have to be done or the funding's going to cease. It's just that candid. I know you were at our meeting and I'm typically the one breaking the tie and I'm not going to be there. So if the funding's going to happen, the studies and the work has to be done or the funding won't be there. It's just that straightforward.
One of the questions we wanted to ask today was, what's the appetite and plan for bringing this to each of the city councils or maybe even a joint city council meeting so that we could begin that discussion? Yeah, that's what I was thinking. It would have to be after the first of the year. Yeah.
What would you be bringing? You'd be bringing this?
Correct.
Councilman Reynolds? Are you there?
Yep, I'm here.
Have any comments?
It's about the same comment you had.
Well, I tell you what, Jerem knows, I think hopefully we play well in the sandbox because I so appreciate him and his leadership. If Nampa, who we just fought hard to get our funding, and they come in and they don't see much focus on Nampa, it's not going to set well. And so I guess, Dale, what I'm wondering with you is if you brought this before our city council, I don't know. What do you think? It's not
Well,
all
I
about
think
Nampa.
No, I think it needs to be brought forward. And sooner than later would be great. But, the longer you sit on it, the less appetite there's gonna be to do anything about it.
What I'm thinking is there's such a need for increased ridership. And so if we're not even considering the busy nodes and where we've got a lot of traffic and a lot happening to increase that ridership, if we don't have a focus there, that funding's not going to come. They're not going to be happy at all.
Well, I think one thing that we could do, we do have a phase 2 scheduled for this study in this upcoming fiscal year. So I think what we could do is just revamp the scope of that to focus on the area that you're talking about.
But and I'm so sorry, I don't mean to be negative and I don't mean to drive this. If we push a study out and we're in the study and we're not done, it was really, really hard for me to get funding this year. It's not going to happen next year. If we're in a study and we aren't delivering something, the funding is not going to be there. We have to get to a place where we really can see a change because the appetite just isn't there. And I won't be there either. So Dale will be there as council president and sitting here on this executive board, but it's getting harder and harder because they're saying we've got to see change. And as you guys all know, and I'm sorry, I don't mean to go on about Nampa, it's very difficult to transition from this, the rural setting that we're in. As the urbanization comes in, this transition is hard. It's not easy. And so that's what my argument for funding is that we've got years ahead of us. If we stop, you and I've had this discussion, if we stop, we'll never get there. We need to stay consistent, moving towards how we fund transit. It's very, very important, but it's hard. It's a heavy lift. It's hard. Understanding the transition is hard. If our city council sees a study and I can tell you where it'll set. So anyway, food for thought. Thank you for your work. Really appreciate it. It's awesome. And this is a move in the right direction. It's just the reality of life.
Well, thank you for that input. Recognizing that the Karcher node is the largest of these and it is in Nampa, but also recognizing that much of the growth in Nampa is on the north side at this point.
Mhm.
I think you make a really good point that we need to do some work there as well.
Mhm. Yeah. Thank you.
Madam Chair.
Sorry.
Hi, Commissioner.
I know this is just focused on this particular area, but I think it exemplifies what the mayor was talking about in terms of, because this is transit and development. And we have that going on all over in the Treasure Valley. We have it at Expo Idaho. We have it at Micron. This is an example of how we need to study the forward movement as well as the current movement in order to do exactly what the mayor was saying, in order to energize the infusion of dollars, because unless there's something that's in the movement, dollars have to relate to something substantive. And so just from Ada County's point of view, and I know this is focused on that area, but it exemplifies how we need to do these studies.
Thank you. Well said.
Okay.
Thank you for the comments. Yeah, we'll discuss those strategies internally. And of course, it's always interesting to do long-term studies and try to figure out what our short-term strategies can be to deliver faster results. And intersection improvements include all of the same things as the previous one: the protected bike lanes, improved pedestrian crossings, crosswalks, and buffers for pedestrians. So the next thing we looked at was the market analysis for multifamily. So one of the big drivers when you look at transit-oriented development is what the market analysis is for multifamily and whether the rents are going to drive multifamily development. So obviously, when you're looking at some place like downtown Boise, where it's a very desirable place to live, the rents are going to be higher, and that's going to make it easier for developers to be able to pencil TOD developments. So as we took a look at Canyon County, obviously the rents are much lower in Caldwell and Nampa. Those areas have typically been considered more affordable areas where people have moved and then driven their cars into other areas where there's jobs. That is the bad news. The good news is that even though those rents are low, there's still an expanding market for multifamily. Obviously, housing prices all across the Treasure Valley have increased so much that multifamily has become more and more a viable product that it wasn't, even 5 or 10 years ago. As we took a look at how many building permits had been issued in Nampa and Caldwell for multifamily, you can see that it's increasing, and that from year to year, 2022, there was over 1,000 building permits permitted for multifamily development. As you go up and down the Nampa Caldwell Boulevard, there's a handful of great examples of multifamily development. Everything from the Tillian in downtown Caldwell, the Jackson, the 208 district at the Karcher Mall, and there continues to be more added. As we took a look at this, basically, it means that the market's expanding. And so as we look at development along the boulevard, we'll continue to monitor it. But we took a look at some of the other uses that might be viable along the boulevard, and 2 interesting ones really emerged. So typically you would mix the multifamily with like retail commercial, but 2 of the uses that we discovered was tourism, the tourism market being really underserved in Canyon County with the wine country there, as well as the different event centers. There could be different uses along the boulevard that could cater to those, as well as what you're saying with CWI. We could expand the educational uses within our TOD nodes and maybe have a little bit different mix of uses than what you might see in a traditional node.
Can I ask a quick question? What boundary did you use for your analysis?
The study area boundary.
So it was the Nampa Caldwell study?
Correct.
Okay, perfect.
So with that, the next steps, we'll be finalizing the study. We do need to do some public engagement. So there will be some public engagement on these concepts within the nodes this fall. Once we finish those up, we'll finish up the document and bring it to the board. At that point, we'll be coordinating with both the cities. City of Nampa in particular is working on their county comp plan now. So we'll be coordinating utilizing this study to inform that study and working with both of our cities moving forward. Thank you.
Kate, this was really great. I really appreciate your presentation and the work that you put in with the team. Again, as someone from representing the Ada County Highway District, obviously this is outside of our jurisdiction, but I just want to echo Commissioner Daly's points that I think this makes really good sense. I think it's a really great blueprint for our cities in Canyon County to look at where the opportunities are. And I think this was really well done. And hopefully I'm really curious to hear next steps on like what you guys hope to take away from this and all that good stuff. Cause I think it's just going to feed in of itself, right? Once that development starts happening, more folks will be down there, the density will happen, like all of that new development will just benefit and kind of spread throughout, even outside the nodes. So thanks, Kate. Any other questions for Kate? Anyone online? Great. Perfect. All right, our next one is Valley Connect 3.0 update, and this is also with Ms. Kate Dahl.
It'll be just a second.
just to set this one up, as you know, as we work toward finding a more stable funding source for Valley Regional Transit, we knew it was important to help people understand what the future of transit would be if we were able to have more funding. So this study is really focused on if we had more than what we have today, if we're able to grow the system, what would it get us?
Could I make a comment while Kate's pulling it up?
Mhm.
I just want to say while you're pulling that up, thank you so much for the work. What I realize is, especially Elaine with VRT, with your organization and staff, what you're doing with the funding you're serving two very different areas. Ada County versus Canyon County. And it's shifting so much, just even in your approach to that. And how, because Ada County is much more established, you've got the density, you've got the need is different. Canyon County, it's like this whole new thing. And I just want to say, I recognize that it's a heavy lift. And you're doing a really good job. You're doing a really good job. And Kate, thank you for your work. It's not easy. And I recognize that. And I will say our council recognizes that. And they do have confidence in VRT and the work that's being done, which is great. And you've been able to accomplish that. Yeah, appreciate it. Good job. We do need state funding, though.
Thank you, Mayor Kling, for your comments, and thanks for your patience. I don't think my computer had enough coffee this morning. All right, Valley Connect 3.0, also an informational update, also with new information since the last time I spoke with you. The three topics we're going to go over to today: the growth scenario with rail map, our why for public transportation, and fleet and facilities. So first off, as you recall, we did a peer comparison. So one of the things that VRT did in the last Valley Connect and has done over the last several years is look to other cities our same size, same geography, same political climate to see how big their network is, how many riders it serves, and how we could look. So that's how we set a target, is trying to fit ourselves and our network within our peer for what other communities are doing. And so what we ended up here with is the growth with rail map, which of course includes the rail line, but also includes an expansion of our premium routes, which are shown in yellow, which are 7.5 to 15-minute service. Our frequent routes, which are green, which are 15 minutes or greater. Our local, which are 30 minutes or greater. And then, of course, our peak only routes. See those here. So some of the things with the growth scenario, as we expand this network, and one of the big points of doing this is, of course, to expand our ridership. And that's exactly what this does. This particular network increases our service hours by more than 260%. It provides more access to population within a quarter mile. It's expected to grow by 68%. And the percent, 340% would increase in those that would be able to access frequent service. We also added weekend service on Saturday and Sunday, so folks that would have access to that would grow by 200%. So pretty substantial increases to access to transit. Next, we look to update why public transportation. What are some reasons that would resonate with folks? Obviously, transportation is independence, never gets old. People need to get around. It doesn't matter who you are, you need to get to work, you need to get to school, you need to go shopping, you need to do errands, recreation, etc. As we crunch the numbers, we found, which I find astounding, 36% of people in Idaho can't drive due to age or disability. This includes people that are under 14, people that are over 75 that may not have their driver's license, as well as people that are disabled. Those are the populations that aren't overlapping. This doesn't include The 10% that are considered in poverty that may not be able to afford to drive. It doesn't include foreign-born that do not have driver's licenses, and it does not include the other portion of the disabled population in the younger or older age group. So the population that cannot drive could be considerably higher than this. And this is astounding. These are people that, you know, are relying on what public transportation there is in Idaho. They're also relying on their friends, neighbor, and family to get them around, or in some cases, they're not going anywhere. And that's leading to bad social outcomes and mental outcomes. Second thing we took a look at, of course, is public transportation is efficient. As we look at the roadways that we have, there's construction going on everywhere. That construction is expensive. But with public transportation, you can move more people in the same space. If you look at a roadway, you can move 1,600 people an hour in cars. You can move with frequent service, you can move 8,000 people in that same roadway. So trying to improve public transportation service is going to save our infrastructure and save money on infrastructure. The third point is public transportation is affordable. One of the indexes that's talked about in planning is the Housing and Transportation Index, which as you look at different households' budgets, how much they're spending on housing every month and how much they're spending on transportation. 30% on housing for, you know, rent, mortgage, utilities, 30% is considered affordable. When you're looking at transportation, it's your auto loan, your insurance, your car maintenance, your bus pass, et cetera, not to exceed 15% for a combined score of 45%. In Idaho, the average is 52%. And we all know how high the housing prices have skyrocketed. But what was even more astounding when we took a look at this is the transportation costs were higher than housing. So when we averaged the housing out, it was actually at 26%, which is a little bit lower than the affordable range, but the transportation average was 29%, whereas the threshold 15%, so almost double. And some of the reasons that's so high is one, Idaho's a rural state. With rural towns, people have to drive a long way to get to services, amenities. Households have multiple cars. And then we also have this large population that can't drive. So there's multiple trips a day happening to help people that are not able to drive. So next we looked at fleet and facilities. In the previous Valley Connect, we looked at the fixed route system, but we didn't have any costs for fleet and facilities. And so as we go forward and building out this growth scenario, we need to know how many additional vehicles, how many bus stops, how many stations, what expansions to operating facilities that we need. This, as we took a look at those, allows us to come up with a ballpark figure so we have some idea and some sense of how much money we're looking at that it would take to build out this system. And then that will help us as we talk about direct funding and how much money we would need per year. So first off, vehicles. Obviously, we need the right size of vehicles. We need vehicles with different fueling types. And some of our vehicles take multiple years before we have to order them 2 years in advance before we receive them. In order to reach our growth scenario, we would need an additional 60 standard buses, an additional 30 smaller buses, and an additional 45 access vehicles. As far as bus stops and stations, as you know, our bus stops have been a gateway to our network, a focal point of the neighborhood where people can enter into our fixed route network. And they require major improvements that require time for construction, permits, approvals, and designs. In order to reach the growth scenario, we would have to add another 520 bus stops. We would need to improve the Town Square Mall facility, which we currently have underway with rider improvements, as well as our charging stations for the electrical fleet, and improve the Elder Street Park and Ride as a multimodal facility to connect to our other modes of transportation around the state, such as inner city buses. The third, operating facilities. Of course, if we add all of these vehicles, we're going to need additional operating facilities for vehicle maintenance, bus storage, fueling, driver break rooms, and administrative offices. We would need to expand our Orchard facility, bus storage and fueling, of course, the Happy Day Transit Center reconstruction, and then we would also need to improve or add a facility here at Meridian to accommodate our specialized maintenance fleet and expand office facilities. When we take a look at the costs for those, in the millions, this basically provides a full picture along with our operating and service costs of what we need in order to meet the Valley Connect 3.0 vision and assist us in making the case for direct funding.
And just a note on this, so 2 notes actually. Remember that all capital costs, which include vehicles, are at 20% local, 80% federal. So our challenge in this case will be getting enough federal grants to be able to do this expansion. Typically, when a system does expansion, it happens over time and not in a big chunk like we might have if we find a new funding source. So I've already been talking to FTA about strategies to be able to accommodate that kind of growth in a shorter time period. The other thing, and you'll hear more about this later today and later this year, we're re-looking at our strategy of how many electric, how many CNG, what's our bus fleet mix going to be. And currently our only strategy has been to electrify the big bus fleet in Ada County. And so as we go forward, we're going to look at all of that. Right now, CNG buses are about half as much, maybe even less than half as much as electric buses. And there's both some savings and some earnings you can get if you use them. So we're wondering if that's a better interim strategy than going all electric, doing a half and half fleet. So we'll be talking more about that. So we're looking at ways, these are like sticker shock costs, we know that. But we're looking at ways to value engineer them to get them to a point where we can make them work.
Alina, I just also want to flag like everything's going up, right? So I think it's important that we know at least what is that ballpark, because especially with whatever tariff is coming in or whatever is not happening, like it's probably going to either maintain or continue to go up. So it's nice to at least have these costs.
I appreciate that you've noted the CNG costs versus electric. I know for Canyon County, at least for Nampa, when asked by Republic Services, I'm encouraging them to go with gas, not electric. I would encourage that because we actually, with the technology, and I think Ada County is working with their gas, if we can be producing the gas to run the buses locally, then we're going to have great savings. The demand on our electrical grid with growth is going to continue to increase versus go down. And if we can use, and I know for the city of Nampa, we're really looking at waste energy production, which is the most environmentally wise thing that we can do. And so those are the projects we're working on. And here, if we can get a bus at much less cost, we can produce our own energy to run those buses, then to me, that's the direction we need to be going and looking at rather than going all electric, because it actually is achievable. And the other thing I was thinking, I know we were asked to support, not that I'm offering this, but I will suggest it, that there may be municipalities that could help support a capital request, one-time capital request, rather than the ongoing general fund tax piece. Is there an ask that is a capital fund request that we could help offset the cost of capital?
Thank you. With that, our next steps will be, we're just finishing up the document content. Our communications department will be putting it into our branding packet, making it look good, and we'll be bringing this plan back for you in the fall to take a look at. Thank you.
All right. Well, with that, we're not going to be doing the executive session, so the meeting is adjourned.